All right, welcome everybody. A few more are still logging in here, so I'll give them just a minute, but I really do like to start these on time. I like to reward those of you who get here early without having to wait, especially on a webinar, although I'm sure you can multitask. I really hate to make anybody wait. I'd actually rather start on time and end early if we don't have a lot of questions at the end. We are scheduled to go 2 hours, but I am not 100% convinced that we will go 2 hours. We may be here 90 minutes, but I really want to give you all the time I can at the end to have questions, even if we were to go over. This is a unique time. Of course, you've heard that a million times already, but I really want to make sure I'm available to help anyone, whether it has to do with knocking on doors or not. I'm happy to take any and all of your business growth strategy type questions today. So if you're just looking for some coaching, and maybe you've worked with me in the past and you have questions for me that are outside what we're talking about today, don't worry about it. My goal is to get through this today so we can do some of that. So to kind of kick us off here, is kind of get us kind of casually started as some other people are logging in. If you could, I want some of you most all of you are used to Zoom by this time. You might not be used to Webinar Jam. It's a little bit different, though it's pretty self-explanatory. If you could, I want to make sure you all know how to use the chat function. Go into the chat function and just type a hello. Let me know if you can hear me okay and that everything is fine. So just go to the chat function, maybe type in a hello. That'll let me know you're hearing me. You can see I have already started a poll asking you if you've ever knocked on doors before. So we got that poll going. And I've also already shared with you the slides from this presentation. So you've got the slides you can download, so keep you from typing notes. And you all say, I sound great. That is good to hear. I have a brand new fancy podcasting microphone, and it seems to be working. So good to see everybody. A couple names I recognize. So for those of you who don't know me, I don't like to spend a lot of time talking about myself. My name is Thom Pirone. It is Tom. I just spell it with an H to be weird and British. So my name is Thom Pirone. My company is Stronghold Training. It is, I think you're talking, Monica said that the microphone, I think, is fancy smancy, not my name. But the microphone is very schmancy, very schmance there. So my company is Stronghold Training. I do a bunch of stuff, a bunch of consulting, coaching, all that type of stuff. But most of you who know me through the Pro Coach program. So I am the creator and senior coach for Pinellas Realtor Organization's Pro Coach program. It's just a coaching program for their members. But Stronghold does a lot of the same stuff. So I work inside of real estate and a large part, but outside of real estate as well. I work with lots of entrepreneurs and small businesses, especially here in the Tampa Bay area. Lots of fast-growing companies here are my clients. So I do a bunch of different stuff. I love real estate, though, and for a bunch of reasons. But the three main reasons I love real estate so much is because, number one, it is entrepreneurial. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. A lot of realtors go into real estate not realizing how entrepreneurial it is, but it really is a make your own destiny type of business. And there's so many options, whether you want to work primarily with sellers or buyers or both, or investors or property management, commercial, selling businesses. I mean, it's just so cool, all the stuff that little real estate license can afford you. And there's very little barrier to entry into real estate. I mean, we really can just kind of jump right in. Of course, that creates a lot of problems as far as know-how and success, which is why I also love real estate. Number two, there's a lot of opportunity for growth and training and coaching within the real estate world, because you guys kind of just get a license and go at it. Brokers do what they can for you, some more than others, but for the most part, it's a throw you to the wolves, sink or swim type of environment. And even though the opportunities abound, many people who have a lot of talent don't really put the success kind of strategy and systematic approach that's necessary to win in real estate. They never really get that together. Even some really successful people have a hard time remaining consistently successful because they don't really understand those things, because it's not really common within real estate. So that's exciting for me as a coach and a trainer, because I always know that I can bring value to almost any real estate setting. That's exciting. And then the third reason I love real estate is, well, probably for the same reason you do. There's a lot of opportunity to make money, and money with fun stuff. It's not like we're selling boring stuff. Real estate's cool. It's just fun, and you can make a lot of money. So those are reasons I love real estate. What I find as a real estate coach is there's just a lot of fear and a lot of watching what the person in front of you is doing and trying to copy it, when a lot of times what they're doing is the same thing the person in front of them did, and it's not always right. And so and it's bold of me to say that, but the fact of the matter is that predictable success formulas that most small businesses follow, the frameworks that most small startups follow to get success and to create kind of that predictable, consistent success is very hard to find within the real estate world. It's just not traditionally what we do, but it works really well in real estate. So my hope is we can get a piece of that today, looking at a traditional approach. So the way this works is it's not a Zoom call where I have you all on it talking. But you are free to talk. So if you would like to talk, you can request to speak. If you have any questions, you can put those right in the chat. I'm going to give you opportunities to interact while we're going through this. But any questions that are in there, I can mark as a question and I'll get through those. 2 hours would be a long time to just listen to me. So I want to make sure we interact and then again, hopefully end early and have time for those who just want some coaching to stay on after. So without further ado, we are here to talk about knocking on doors. I was pleasantly surprised to see right now, COVID-19, who the heck is knocking on doors? Well, no one really knocked on my door until last week. Last week, I started getting the pest control guys coming by again and started knocking on my door again. And everybody's home, so you think, well, why don't you do it now? But obviously, there's concerns about social distancing and that. So interestingly, a lot of people are outside. So there's just people out there. So people are knocking on doors, but many of you may decide to wait. And so I didn't expect to get a lot of people on the webinar today because I thought, well, a lot of people are just going to wait. But I'm glad you're here because I don't think you're going to have to wait long to be able to implement this. And a lot of people just see knocking on doors and they go, I'm not going to do that, so I won't attend. Some of you are probably here because you've done it in the past. Some of you are here because you're curious to do it. Some of you are probably like, I probably will never do it, but I'm just curious to hear what he says about it, if he will confirm my fears and suspicions. And I might. But I will tell you, when it comes to proven historical ways to build relationships, knocking on doors is very, very effective. Doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't mean you're going to like doing it. It's kind of like FSBO calls, expired calls, historically, highly effective. Does that mean you have to do it to be successful in real estate? Absolutely not. Does it mean you shouldn't learn the skill set? I would say learn the skill set. We'll put it this way. Maybe it's a bad illustration, but I know how to shoot, right? Like I learned to shoot. I hope I never have to. But I know how to because it's easier for me to defend myself that way than kickboxing. So I know how to. And maybe for some of you, knocking on doors, FSBO calls, some of those things, maybe it feels like warfare to you. And you're like, I don't really want to ever go to war. But it's kind of nice to have the ability when things come up. And what I'm going to show you today, especially for those of you skeptical or nervous about knocking on doors, I'm going to give you a couple of door knocking scenarios, which absolutely anybody can do and should. Some not to necessarily make door knocking a regular part of your prospecting plan, but just about every agent, I think, should have the ability to knock on a door and have a script, because there are certain times in real estate, I think you almost have to be able to do that. So for those of you who walk away from this saying, I'm never going to knock on doors to grow my business, that's fine. You're going to have an ability to still use this when you do have to, and I'm going to show you when that is. All right, that's a long enough-winded introduction. Let me ask you, why are you here? what are you hoping to take away from this to make you successful? So if you could just go into the chat, I'd love for you to type in just one or two things that you'd like to take away from this. And hey, don't worry about your spelling, okay? Listen, just go in there and type whatever you want. People always worry about their spelling. Go into the chat, type what you'd like to take away from this today. And I'll give you a minute to do that while I down some coffee. Good to see some of you. Bethany says she recognized my name from D6. Yep, D6 Leadership is one of my favorite events every year. I've done that now, I want to say 6 or 7 years. Love that event. I think that you guys are on hold right now, unfortunately. Erica wants leads. Bethany used to do some door knocking, wants to brush up on her skills. Karen says confidence to overcome any objections they would give me. We are definitely going to cover that. Also, which doors to knock on. We're going to cover that too. How do I get them to answer the door? It's a good one, Holly. We are going to talk about that. Barbara wants courage, and I think I'm going to give you some courage today. Good. It's all good stuff. Confidence, courage. So confidence and courage and all of that is made up from a lot of different elements. But it really helps to know what you're doing. It does. And even though you know what you're doing, doesn't necessarily mean you don't get a little scared. But once you get a little bit of practice and you get a couple of wins under your belt, it really becomes easy. So I spent a long time in the military, and things can get scary in the military, and so scary that you can't think. You just can't even process. You can get paralyzed from fear quite easily. And the way we overcome that in the military is by drilling. I mean, like something's going down, you can run to the armory, get a gun, load it up, and be ready to go and fight when you really are terrified. Your feet will move. As a matter of fact, the most peaceful thing you can do when you're scared is something that requires very little effort. Most of us, when we get scared, we fidget because we don't know what else to do with our hands. But when you've practiced and drilled something so much, even what to say, when you're nervous, you won't be able to do anything but say it if you've drilled it enough. So the number one way to overcome fear is to be very practiced. And number two is to get in the water and splash around. You got to kind of get out there and get acclimated. And then the third thing is have a couple of wins. Couple of small wins make all the difference in the world. That said, I still get nervous before knocking on doors. I still get nervous before cold calls. Partially because I'm human and I'm not an apathetic sales monster. So that's normal. But I remind myself every single time of this simple little thing, which is I want to help people. I'm equipped to help people. I have helped people in the past. And if I don't make myself a little uncomfortable, I'm not going to be able to help some people who really need help. And I have to preach that to my own heart before I make cold calls or do anything like that on a regular basis. Because the fact of the matter is that it does take a bit of sacrifice to make us uncomfortable. And those people out there who say, I don't care at all, I can go out there and knock on doors and cold call with the best of them, and I just think about all the money I'm going to get, those are usually not people I want to buy from, and they're usually not people that I want to become. And so even though they might be the ones who are doing most of this type of stuff, that doesn't mean we can't be different. And when we're different, we're going to stand out to the people we're talking to. So let's dive into the good stuff here. So let's look at the old way versus the new normal. This is an old slide. I'm not trying to, new normal is being thrown around a lot right now. I'm really talking about just, when door knocking was prevalent, like back when I was a kid, people knock on our door all the time, selling encyclopedias and you name it. We bought it all, steaks, people sold it all. But if you think about door-to-door sales, it probably gives you visions of that late 20th century, the vacuum cleaner salesperson. My stepmother used to sell rainbow vacuum cleaners door-to-door, made a ton of money. And now we might, I'll turn off my camera so you can read the slide. In our minds, a knock at the door may represent a threat more than an opportunity. I'm going to show you a video. Some of you have probably seen it before. It's just hilarious. A comedian talking about this very thing. And even though it's mostly funny, it's incredibly accurate. So I'm going to play that video. If you can't hear the video, let me know. Let me get that started.
I was sitting in my house a couple weeks ago, just relaxing. My doorbell rang. This is weird. It's a different feeling when your doorbell rings today opposed to 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, your doorbell rang. That was a happy moment in your house. It's called company. You'd be sitting there on a Thursday night watching TV. Your doorbell rang, the whole family shot off the couch. Oh my God! Put the lights on, somebody's here. We got people. The whole family went to the door. The kids were in socks, they slid up to the door. Nobody looked to see who it was. Right, you just opened up the door, you were like, oh my God, look at that. Look at who's here. And you'd ask him, what the hell are you doing here? And the person would be like, I was in the neighborhood. I thought I might stop by, see how the kids are doing. They're like, oh, come on in. We're gonna have some cake. Your mother had a little Entenmann's. Maybe some Sara Lee crumble cake. Just in case company came over. She made an announcement when she bought it. She's like, listen, nobody touch this cake. This is for company only. Those crap muffins, those are for you people. You better hope to God somebody comes over so we can cut the cake. She put her cake in the middle of the table, proud of it. Right? She put it right in the middle. Cut yourself a slice. Want a cup of coffee? We're gonna do want some Sanka? Yeah, that's old school. A lot of the young kids are looking at me like, what is that, an iPhone app? What the hell is Sanka? Your mother had a tin, brown and orange tin of Sanka, ready to go just in case the company. She put a big pot on the table. Go ahead. Nobody had a cell phone back then. If your house phone did ring, your father stood up and said, nobody get that phone. We got company. And you lost track of time. 2 hours went by. You were like, we got to get out of here. That's okay. Next time we're going to come by you. Be like, yeah, my door's always open. Now your doorbell rings? It's like, what the fuck? All right, your own mother's crawling across the kitchen floor. Get down, my army crawl. Army crawl, get in the closet. Go get the sword in the living room. Somebody get the sword underneath the couch in the living room. There's a sword.
All right. I don't care how many times you see that. That never gets old. Hopefully you guys are able to hear that okay. It can be hard to see it sometimes playing a video through a webinar. I'm happy to share you the link with that guy. Awesome stuff. If you want to check him out later, his name is, if you go to sebastianlive.com, or just Google when the doorbell rings. If you just Google when the doorbell rings, he'll come up. It's a pretty famous little comedy bit. But anyway, it's true. It's true. I showed that to my wife not long ago, and we're like, that's exactly how it is. When the doorbell rings now, we all go running. It's crazy. So is anyone going to answer the door when you come? And are they going to be scared? Or is it going to be like it used to be, and they're going to welcome you in and give you some Entenmann's and some Sanka? That's what we're going to look at here. Let me fire up my presentation again. All right. So the old versus the new, things have definitely changed. There's no doubt about that. The fact of the matter is, though, is that doors do open when you knock on them. I do not have a statistic that says this % open. And I think it would be unusually skewed in these past couple of weeks. I actually think it would be much higher. But the reality is that knocking on doors still works. I got lots of clients that do it. I've got clients that have done it. And what I find is, if you knock on doors on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, or if you knock on doors in the evening, you're going to get a pretty high open rate, actually. If you knock on doors during the day, during the week, your knock rate, again, this is just all empirical evidence just from my clients, open rate's about 10%, 10 to 20%, depending on the neighborhood, 10 to 20%. On weekends, more closer to 50 or higher. So that's what you would typically, that's what they typically see. That said, again, right now, very different. Like, for example, FSBO answer rates, about 1 out of 10, 3 out of 10 FSBO answer rates. Right now, my clients that are building their business on FSBOs are seeing closer to 8 out of 10 answering the phone. And what's even weirder is about 6 out of 10 having good conversations with them, and they're getting listings. So it's really interesting how much things are actually improving right now in those tougher to penetrate areas. Door knocking is a fast, easy, and direct method for meeting people and offering them help in the best place, which is their home. I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to convince you to do it, but I just want to review a couple of reasons I think you should do it if you are at all leaning towards it. It is a direct opportunity for a relationship to begin. Direct opportunities, direct sales, if you will, is the fastest way to convert people. Marketing, Facebook marketing, stuff like that just takes a long time to build bond over. It's very good, but if you want to close appointments and get listings now, direct sales, calls, and door knocks are the fastest way. You are likely speaking to a homeowner. So when you do a lot of other types of mailers and things like that, you never really know who you're getting to. I mean, obviously mailers go to homeowners, but when you knock on a door, you're probably speaking to the homeowner. Usually the decision maker will be the one you're talking to. So it's your ideal prospect, the closest, remember, the shortest conversion to an ideal prospect. And another reason is most agents have people skills. You are relationship people. You provide a valuable service to these people, and you can speak to the environment, the neighborhood you're in, and assess their home. So if you really think about it, like it or not, uncomfortable or not, it is actually the best way to make these types of connections. There really isn't a better way. And so again, most of the issues we don't want to do it isn't because of these. It's our own reasons. And those reasons are valid. But if you're worried that someone's going to throw a door in your face or yell at you or scream you to get off your lawn, their lawn, I can tell you those are very, very rare instances. And if you're worried that it's going to be a worthless exercise and you're not going to convert anybody, that is absolutely not true. I don't have any clients that have ever knocked on doors without success. Any clients, any, not one. Every single client of mine that has ever knocked on doors has set appointments. So let that be an encouragement to you. That doesn't mean, again, that you have to do it. The biggest limitation of knocking on doors is heat and time, and just, you don't know that they're home. Okay. So other than that, it's incredibly effective. So how do we do it? Let's get into some of this. I'm going to give you scripts today. We're really going to get into how this works. Monica asked if I could read that last point. Yes, let me show that to you again. So you are able to speak to their environment they're in. We're gonna unpack this a bit, Monica. So you can talk about their neighborhood and their home right there where they're at. So that's as compared to being at a networking meeting and you're asking questions about someone's house. When you walk up to someone's door, you can say, like, it looks like you've done a lot with the place, or your home really stands out compared to others, or I am familiar with this area. All of that is much more validated, much more true when you're standing at their front door. So you're on site, and that's the best place to be. So a couple of just minor details. We're going to get deep into the actual engagement. But number one, you really want to dress professionally. Now, this is Florida professional for most of you, right? So shorts are fine, but look as though you're a business person, not someone whose car broke down up the road, right? So dress professionally, even though it's hot. So it would be better to be dressed professionally and be a little sweaty than to be dressed completely unprofessionally, and even if you're not sweaty at all, but you're going to sweat. And so I'll leave that to you, what professional is. But I had someone one time say, they were going to do this in their workout clothes. I just don't recommend that. I would go around in some sort of lightweight, airy, professional, modest clothing. Wear valid identification. This is actually one that I highly recommend, but other people have told me that they feel like it makes the door not open as often. I disagree. I think it's more likely to get the door open. But when I say valid identification, you could just wear your name tag, with a logo on it and a name tag. That would be fine. I would actually recommend that you get a lanyard and you get like a large card with your picture on it and your logo. They're very cheap to do. You can honestly just take a lanyard and stick a business card in it. But some sort of ID hanging around your neck is actually, it looks very official. It also looks like you're soliciting, and I get that. So a lot of people are just happy with their name tag. But, when someone's looking out that peephole, someone asked earlier, how do you get them to open the door? Someone looks out that peephole. If they see that you look like a solicitor and they open the door, they're expecting you to solicit them, and that's okay. But they also figure you're official, and they're less likely to think you're someone there who's going to kick the door open, if that makes sense. Smile a lot. That's very, very important. When you knock on the door, when you're standing outside, be smiling and expect they're looking at you. So the minute that doorbell rings, you knock on the door, smile needs to be on your face, and ideally don't go alone. And that's not just for safety, actually. That's because they're more likely to open the door and to be less defensive when there's more people there. Even though it's more people with you, people tend to let their guard down in groups, even though it's more of you. So 2 or 3, even knocking on doors tends to do a lot better. And here's the actual biggest benefit most of my clients have said, which is when you go with someone, you're more likely to actually do it and not cut it short. It's kind of like going to the gym with a good gym buddy. You're more likely to finish the workout, do those extra couple of reps. So most of my clients who have been able to consistently do this have done it as a group. So they meet with somebody every week and they go and knock doors for 2 or 3 hours, and then they call it a day. The question is, what do you do with appointments? How do you divide all that up? And you just have to figure that out. Usually it's just, they just continue working it as a team, split commissions or whatever they want to do, or just say, I'll take the first 3, you take the last 3. It doesn't really matter. So those are some important things, but we're going to get really kind of deep into this. So what does it actually sound like when you knock on the door? Before I get into that, I don't have a slide for this. So if you're taking notes, this would be one thing to write down. The main strategy for door knocking that I have found successful is something that I call sticky strategy. So some of you are familiar with me will have heard of this before, but I do a predictable success training. I'll actually give you a link to it later where you guys can get it if you want to watch it online. But I do a predictable success training. What I mean by predictable success is this. In real estate or in any sales, in any entrepreneurial venture, you need to know, if I do these things, I will get these things. Meaning, if I make 30 calls, I know typically I'm going to have 10 conversations and set 2 appointments. How do I know that? Because I have a plan to make 30 calls a day. I've been making 30 calls a day, say for the last 90 days. I've been tracking all my dials to answers to appointments conversions. And within a slight margin of error, I can look back over the past 90 days and with predictable success say, if I do these things, I'll get these things. If you have that in real estate, you get 2 major benefits. The first benefit is you have an actual formula that gives you some confidence that, you know, if I do something, I'm gonna be successful. And most of the time what we do in real estate is we just hustle, we do everything we can, we're trying new stuff all the time, and some of it works and some of it doesn't work, and some of it maybe was about to work, but we just don't know because we're all over the place. And so when you go to make those calls or knock on doors or whatever you're gonna do, you may lack some confidence, and more importantly, you lack some motivation. And you do that because you don't have a predictable success formula that you can look back at. So the number one reason to have a plan that's measurable and trackable and tweakable that you're constantly going back to over a long period of time, I mean, 90 days to 6 months, a long period of time in real estate, is because you get that confidence, that motivation. That's the number one reason you need to use a predictable success formula. The number 2 reason you need to use a predictable success formula is when you have a course like that, you actually get better. So a lot of us will run a Facebook ad and quit. We'll knock on a couple doors and quit. We'll do a few open houses and quit. And we never actually get better. Maybe you even do open houses off and on frequently, but you actually never get better because if you're not running off of a page of music, if you don't have a plan that you're constantly looking at and measuring your results, you typically don't know where to tweak it. What you're evaluating everything on is just end dollars and your emotions. How did that event make me feel? Take open houses, for example. How did that open house make me feel? Did I get any business? While those are important metrics, they're key KPIs, key performance indicators, they aren't going to help you tweak it all. When you get inside the metrics a little bit more, you know, what did I do to lead up to the open house? How many people showed up, etc.? How many conversations did I have? How many appointments did I set? When you start getting a little bit more predictable and deliberate like that, your business starts to take off because you have confidence and you actually get better. I would say, and this is a bold statistic, it's just based off of my gut, probably about 95% of agents never do that. Never do that. Some of the more successful ones do in some areas of their business. At least they've been so consistent or habitual that they've kind of done it even if they haven't tracked it. They've ended up doing it because they've just been so consistent and habitual. But most real estate agents and entrepreneurs, being consistent, disciplined, and predictable is not our strength. We actually have to be a little bit more of a sales manager and do some of this on paper to have any hope of getting this done. And I apologize if there's a lot of background noise. Like the rest of you, I'm working from home. So with that in mind, I say all of that to say this. This door knocking thing does not have to be a standalone, siloed thing that we do in order to grow our business. All right. I want you to hear me on this. If you take nothing else away, this will help you probably the most. It can be a part of what I call sticky strategy. All right. Since we lack discipline, oftentimes at doing consistently the things we need to do to grow our business, what works best is to actually have a strategy where everything comes together, where it's systematic, where you can't do one thing without it knocking all the dominoes down and we do everything else. Let me give you an illustration of what I mean. So you plan an open house. So every listing you have, or every Friday you go into your office, or every Thursday you go into your office and you say, I'm looking for open houses. You sign up on the list. However you get open houses, you get open houses. That open house would be what I call an anchor point to the sticker strategy, or cornerstone. Let's call it an anchor point to the sticky strategy. Once you have an open house booked, sticky strategy comes into play. You follow your system, and it looks like this. You show up to the open house a couple days beforehand. You make sure the place looks good. You clean the bathrooms, do whatever you're going to do. Maybe put some fresh mulch in the front yard. Go on Facebook. Make sure you have some pictures of the house. Go on Facebook and you post an event for the upcoming open house. So open house now has led to social media strategy. You spend $10 and you boost that post to everyone on your list. Now we're doing targeted marketing, all as a part of this. That's our normal open house Thursday routine, okay? Let me add to the routine. After we show up to the house, we go and knock the 20 doors around the house. And all we do, and I'm going to give you the script in a minute, is let them know that we have an open house coming up and you wanted to invite them to the open house, and let them know, let their friends who may be interested in the neighborhood come down. Let them know it's perfectly fine if they want to come down. And some people feel weirded out about that. Start the relationship there. Just letting them know there's going to be some cars up and down the street, letting them know there's going to be an open house. Easy thing to do. So now we have an open house booked, anchor point, and Thursdays. We've done a social media event post. We've done some targeted marketing and some door knocks. So see, it's not siloed. It's just a part of your system. All right. Then after the open house is over, you make all of your follow-up calls, either that day or the very next day. And then the following week, you come back into the neighborhood, you knock on doors, you let people know how interested everyone was, and you offer them a free consultation on their house. Those are just examples. And you can add to that with a lot more. But that's an example of sticky strategy. And what I love about that is when you get so systematic and routine with that, once you get an open house, you can go right to your calendar, block out those dates and those activities. And here's the beauty, guys. Now one activity has turned to your entire prospecting plan. So building your business isn't about doing a million different things, a million different ways, and being all over the place. It's really about doing a couple of things really well. And when you can build one kind of sticky system like that, and then do it consistently for a long period of time, tracking and tweaking it, you will end up with a very predictable business model. And again, I'm going to say 95+% of agents don't do that. Door knocking can be a leg on that sticky strategy. So even if you don't just say, I'm going to go canvas neighborhoods, you don't have to. I would strongly suggest if you're doing open houses, that this becomes a part of boosting that open house, so that having an open house actually leads to a lot more business. All right. That said, we're going to get into some scripts now. We're also going to take a break at about 2:30. Okay. So don't worry. We're going to pause for 5 minutes at 2:30, take a break. I'll come back from the break, take some questions, and we'll dive back into some of the weeds here. But at the rate we're going, we should get done early. So hopefully you're still with me. I know you've just been listening, not much interaction so far. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of scripts, and I've shared the slides with you already. So you should be able to download those and have all this. You don't have to write it down. So here's one script. So one of the things we want to do when we knock on the doors, we understand it's awkward. It's awkward for them and it's awkward for us. So we want to call out that awkwardness of the situation as kind of an icebreaker. All right. So I'm just going to go through this with you. So here's an example of the script. Hey, I know I'm pulling you away from something, but I'm in your area today because this is an excellent market right now. And I wondered if you were planning on possibly selling your home within the next 1 to 3 years. Now, to be fair, that is a very, very direct, to the point script. I have worked these scripts with several of my clients. I have clients that I have one past client that would knock on about 100 doors a day. So we really had a chance to tweak this. And I will tell you that my original script had a lot more fluff built in on the front end of it. I thought that was better because it made me feel more comfortable. But after testing and testing and testing, this script ended up being the one that worked best for him. Now, he's a very direct guy. This one worked best for him. Let me give you a way this could sound if that's just too direct for you, okay? Hey, my name's Tom, and I'm with ABC Realty. Hey, listen, I know I'm pulling you away from something important, but I was actually in your neighborhood today because this neighborhood is such a great market. And I was just curious how long you guys have lived here and if you knew what your house was worth. That's another example. I've got another kind of script like that. You can see with that little parentheses I kind of inserted here after the because. That's to let you know, enter your reason there. Again, the direct question is a nice way to open up the conversation, but sometimes a more open-ended question is a little bit better. All right. The getting to the point thing lets them know there's a purpose. And so I think that's why it works better. But I like a little fluff on the front end. I guess it just kind of depends on the look on their face when they open the door. Here's another script. Hello, my name is Tom, and I'm with ABC Realty. I know I'm pulling you away from something. That's the icebreaker. So I'll be quick. I stopped by today because I'm the listing agent for 123 Myrtle Street up the road, and I've had a lot of interest in this neighborhood. So I wondered if you were planning on possibly selling your home within the next 1 to 3 years. Now, I know I'm reading that kind of in a salesy voice. I change up my tonality often when I'm talking to people. But the important thing, and if you can watch my face when I read it, is the whole time I say it, I smile like this, okay? Speak slow and even and with some positive emotion. The tonality is more important than the words. These are not magic words, okay? And you can rewrite this in your own words. But when you smile, it sounds like, hey, my name's Tom. I'm with ABC Realty. Hey, I know I'm pulling you away from something really important right now. So I'll just be real quick. Stop by today because I'm the listing agent for the house up the road that's for sale. Had a lot of interest actually in this neighborhood since I became that listing agent. So I was just kind of curious. Are you by chance wanting to sell your house in the next 1 to 3 years? Now, I've got this script memorized. I was looking at the camera. I wasn't looking at the script when I looked at, and so I, may have changed it up a bit. But my goal is to say something with some sincerity, some clarity, and connect with them. Okay? Let me give you one more script. Hello, my name is Tom. Of course, you're going to put your name there. And I'm with ABC Realty. And of course, you don't work at ABC Realty. I know I'm pulling you away from something, but I stopped by today because I've had a lot of interest in the home that's listed up for the street, for sale up the street. By the way, let me pause real quick. This script is for you as a buyer's agent. Because you may be thinking to yourself, I'm not the listing agent. I don't have any listings. I don't have an open house in the neighborhood. Why on earth would I have an excuse to stop by? Well, good news, you can use other people's listings. How do you do that? Well, you're a buyer's agent. And if you have anyone who has ever expressed any interest, and you can find out by saying, how does this home look? It looks good. Haha, now we're not lying. So you can stop by and without embellishing, say this script. Now let me start it again. Hello, my name is Tom and I'm with ABC Realty. Hey, I know I'm pulling you away from something, but I stopped by today because I've had some interest or a lot of interest in the home that's listed up for sale up the street. So I wondered if you were planning on possibly selling your home within the next 1 to 3 years. I avoid saying I have a buyer interested in your home. Okay. You could say I work with investors, but if you say anything that sounds like you got somebody who might buy their home right now, and if that's not true, I would avoid that. I would just say you have someone who's interested in the home up the street. That can be true. Or I've had a buyer who recently looked at the home up the street. So I wondered if you were possibly selling your home. Once again, enter sticky strategy. Now, every time you show a home in a neighborhood that is within your range that you're hoping to be a listing agent in, every single time you do that, you can now go back to that neighborhood the following week and knock on doors around that home as a part of your sticky strategy. And here's the good news. Have a legitimate reason for stopping by. It's not just I'm trying to sell you something. It's I have buyers interested in this home up the street, so it made sense for me to talk to you. Primarily, it's going to make you more comfortable doing this, but it's actually a legit reason other than just, hey, I'm Tom, I'm an agent, and I'm looking for some inventory, if that makes sense. So we're going to get into this a little bit more, but let's go ahead and pause now and take a break. I've talked way too much without giving you guys a break. While we're on break, we're going to take a full 5-minute break, maybe a little bit longer. While we're on break, I want you guys to type any questions you have thus far. Now, some of your questions may get answered in slides coming up. But any questions you have thus far and kind of this script, this kind of sticky strategy, that stuff, go ahead and type those questions in the chat. My clock says it's right at about 2:15, so we will come back at 2:20. Okay, 2:20 Eastern, we will be back. So in exactly 5 minutes, I will see you guys then. All right, as we start getting back and getting situated, if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. Barbara's asked, do you recommend going door to door on expired listings? Absolutely. Actually, I prefer expired listings over FSBOs, though door knocks on FSBOs before COVID-19 worked better than calling them. Both a call and a stop by was usually best. Now you can actually get them on the phone when you call them. So there's really no need to stop by. Expired listings are phenomenal because you really want to get eyes on the house and compare what you see to what the prior listing looked like. A lot of times converting an expired is nothing more than saying, you see your listing here, you see this beautiful house, no wonder it didn't sell. This is, what's going on? A lot of times these things are just a matter of bad marketing. And if you can present yourself as a excellent marketer to these folks, you can get them interested. I personally, it's interesting. Probably about 80-90% of my clients prefer FSBOs over expireds. Personally, I like the expired market because to me, I've got someone who's already listed, been motivated, been a motivated seller. They've checked every box on being qualified. And it just didn't work out. And I can usually, again, I guess I have that consultant eye, but I can usually look and see why it didn't work out unless it was some personal thing on their side. But a lot of times their place didn't get an offer within 2 weeks and above asking. And so I'm in the business of getting people offers above asking, right? So I'm going to go and look at their marketing and do a better job and then present myself as a better professional. And I don't usually feel like I'm hosing over a past agent because that agent's usually flown on and they're focused on things that are going to sell a little bit faster. So the answer, Barbara, in short, yes. Door-to-door and expireds is excellent idea. All right, let's go through a little bit more here. One more script, okay? Here's one more script. Hello, my name is Tom. I'm with ABC Realty. Hey, I know I'm pulling you away from something, but I stopped by today because I'm hosting an open house this weekend at the home for sale up the street. I wanted to invite you to come and check it out and to let any friends know who might be interested in the area. Here's my card. Hey, I'm curious, how long have you lived here? Again, that's why I say for sticky strategy, this is great. When you already have an open house, door knocks, guys, I don't care if you're scared to death to knock on doors as prospecting. If you do open houses, I would really push you. I mean, challenge you to do door knocks around that open house. Think about it. All you're doing is stopping by and being neighborly, like you would if you were going to throw a big party and there was going to be street parking. And when you're there, you say, hey, letting you know we're going to have an open house. That's the reason I'm stopping by. That's not intrusive or salesy at all. So what's that going to do? It means they're going to open the door a little wider. Okay, sure. Well, hey, thanks for letting me know. Hey, just wanted to let you know, a lot of times people are like, I'm not in the market for a house because I'm the neighbor and I feel weird coming down and looking at it. I just want to let you know you can totally do that. Like, it's totally fine. Come on by and check it out. Hey, if you have any friends that might be interested in moving to the neighborhood that you'd actually want to live in the neighborhood, do them a favor, let them know we're going to have an open house. And they go, oh, well, you know what? We might have a friend or two. You know what? If they can't make the open house, no worry. I'm happy to give them a private showing. Here's my card. Thank you so much. You're just helping. There's no sales. There's no, are you looking to sell your home type difficult questions. Just an easy way of helping people. Guys, there's no reason not to do this. And if they start talking, then you like most about living here. Do you think you're going to live here a long time? And then here's the offer. Let me get into the offer. Well, let me say this real quick before we get into the offer. I get so excited about when we can convert them. I'm jumping ahead. Once you've asked that question, listen, extroverts, listen, hyper folks like me, we have to shut up. Ask the question. Are you thinking about selling your home in the next 1 to 3 years? Or do you have any friends that might be interested in coming to the neighborhood? Whatever it is, when you knock on someone's door and you give them a script about 3 sentences long, so these are 3 sentences long or so, they're run-on sentences, but they're about 3 sentences. Hi, my name's Tom. I know I'm pulling you away from something. Here's the reason I stopped by. Here's the question. Once you've done that, guys, you got to shut up. and let them answer. You will never, ever, ever develop a relationship if you don't ask the question and shut up. And then actively listen to what they say. And then all you respond with is more answers. I say that because as I've shadowed people who do this, who do very well at their approach and how well they say everything, they all fail in the same exact area. It's right here. It sounds like this. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, my name's Tom with ABC Realty. Stopping by, got the open house, wanted to invite you. Have you lived here long? We sure have. We've lived here 3 years. Oh, and here comes another story from me, where we need to keep asking questions. What do you like most about living here? Shut up. Have you ever thought about moving somewhere else? Shut up. Do you have any friends who might want to live in the area? Shut up. That's how it needs to be, very much so. And now they start talking. Trust is built, and you actively listen. And then you're going to be able to offer some help. Very, very key. You know what we tend to do? We tend to focus on that script and trying to get that so right. I'm here to tell you the script doesn't even matter. It's just an icebreaker. This is actually the part that matters. Asking questions and shutting up. That's actually the secret to knocking on doors. All right. So then comes the offer. Had a little bonding and rapport here. Now you have to be prepared to make an offer that most anyone could benefit from. Without having a good offer, you're going to make relationships and hand business cards and leave. And I've seen it so many times. I was in this class in person. It was probably a year or two ago, and someone came up to me and they said, "You know what? I knocked on 100 doors and gave my business card to everybody, and no one ever called me back." I said, "That's very rare. I very rarely hear that. Let me ask you, what did you offer them?" He goes, "What did you mean?" I told them when they were ready to buy or sell real estate, here's my card. I go, "Well, you didn't do anything then. When you're ready to buy or sell real estate, here's another card for another agent that you don't know is not a very good offer." So it's great you knocked on the doors, but you never really established a relationship and you never really made an offer to help them. You just gave them a card. It's probably going to go in the trash because they already know an agent. So we have to avoid this step. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of keys to avoiding what happened to that agent. Even that's rare. I kind of find it hard to believe that you knocked on 100 doors and never got anywhere further. They probably didn't even ask him a question, to be honest. They probably just said, "I'm just stopping by to introduce myself. If you're ready to buy or sell, here's my card," and got the heck out of there. That ain't going to do nothing, guys. That's as good as a mailer. Just mail something. So we have to be prepared to make an offer. Most importantly, we got to ask the questions to build some bond. Then comes the offer. And the offer sounds something like this. Since it sounds like you might be considering listing at some point, if they said they might, or if they're on the fence, this is following up the direct question as to whether or not they would list in 1 to 3 years. And I give 1 to 3 years because there's no urgency or pressure to that. Most people would say, well, maybe in 1 to 3 years, it's not like, are you looking to sell in 30 days? 1 to 3 years, people will typically answer that question. They'll say, no, we're living here forever, or we need to leave sooner than that, or yeah, maybe at some point. So you just kind of follow that up with a nice little bridge here. Well, since you're planning on being here a while, or since you're on the fence, or since it sounds like you might be considering listing at some point, my point with this offer thing here is no matter what their answer is, you can still make the offer. Basically, if they answer the door and have a conversation with you, every single one of them should get an offer. That's my point. We would never have a conversation without making an offer. Our offer just needs to be soft, not salesy, and not intrusive. And the best way to do that is just to offer to help them for free and not to sell them anything and not to get any commitment from them at all. Okay? Those are the easiest offers to make and the easiest offers to accept. So you ask them a question. Let's say you just have some banter. Maybe you like a little softer opening about the open house. You say, have you thought about selling your home in the next 1 to 3 years? Very important you give 1 to 3 years because that, again, is no urgency. Well, we've kicked around the idea. Maybe in like 3 years or so, maybe we would move. Well, since you're planning on doing that, maybe in a couple years out, here's what I suggest we do. That's your line. And now, this is a lot of script here, but I want you to listen to it. I'm going to say it slow. Now, this is presuming I've already had a little bit of a conversation with them. I've already asked them a couple of questions, and they've talked to me a little bit. So this would be a lot coming out of your mouth if you just showed up and throwed up, right? That's not what we're going to do. So we had a little bit of a conversation. Maybe we're 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes in, and this is what I say. Here's what I suggest we do. I'd be happy to give you a free comprehensive pricing or value analysis of your home, even as if I was putting it on the market today. Not only will I look at comparable homes for sale in the area, but I'll also evaluate the details of your home, from the structure to upgrades you've done since purchasing to cosmetic features. This will give us the true listing value of your home considering the current market. I'll also let you know what improvements or changes you may want to consider over the coming months or years to improve your asking price. How does that sound? Now, you can make that less salesy. You can make that trimmed down. What you don't want to do is say, would you like a pricing analysis? They don't know what that is. And hear me on this, guys. They don't understand the benefits of having a pricing analysis. Again, I've tested these scripts. When you just offer someone a pricing analysis, at best, you typically get, email it on over. What we want to do is sell them the free offer by talking about the benefits of the free offer. Let me give you another way to say this. Hey, since you're thinking about listing a couple years out, really you actually want to start preparing now. It would be great to kind of have a benchmark of where your house is at now. Hey, I've already got all this data from doing the listing up the road or from preparing for my open house up the road. I've already got all this data. It wouldn't take me that much time. How about I put together a nice little comprehensive analysis for you so you have some data to know what your house would list at as if you were to do it today? I'll tell you what, I'll even do a step more than that. I'll do it as if I was listing your house. I'll even do the walkthrough inspection. We'll sit down and go over it together, make sure you really understand it. How's that sound? Most people who find that to be valuable will say yes. And you notice what I'm doing here. I'm not just emailing them something over or dropping it on the porch, as one of my clients used to do. I'm actually getting an appointment to offer them a listing consultation, even though they're not ready to buy or sell now. Well, why on earth would I want to do a listing consultation with someone who doesn't want to do this now? Well, they may be wondering the same thing. So we're going to tell them, and here it is. The reason why I do this is because when you're ready to sell your home, I know you'll call on me to help you, since you've already started working with me. Also, my hope is that you might refer this offer to anyone who could also benefit from this analysis. Now, again, I know that's a little salesy sounding, and you can go in there and tweak this. That's why I shared the slides with you. But when you offer something so robust and valuable for free, people want to know what the catch is. So we let them know the catch. Here's the catch. We're already going to be working together. So when you're ready to buy or sell, when you're ready to sell, you use me. And I'd love you to be able to offer this to other people. And you've already experienced it. Now, once they say they're interested in that, you have to lay out a little bit of a process. So you say, this is what the process is like. First, we're going to set an appointment for me to do a walkthrough of your house. We can do that today, or we can do that another time. After that, I'll go back and do my analysis. Then we'll sit down to review the results so I can answer any questions you have. So what we're getting now is an opportunity to develop more of a relationship with them and a future appointment. And what's so important about this is between now and the future appointment, they're going to be thinking about selling their home. They're either going to be moving closer to selling it or away from selling it. And this is very, very important. And here's the keys to success with this. After we make the offer, if they're interested in the pricing analysis, we get a day, date, and time appointment. Don't just get an email address and email them over a list of comps and a price. Get an appointment, okay? Do not email it. Don't just run comps. Treat it like an actual listing. Why? Guys, here is the huge benefit. Man, I hope you guys, the few of you that are on this call today, man, I really hope you're paying attention because this is the gravy right here, okay? Anyone considering listing their home in the next 1 to 3 years is more likely to list now. Why? Because when they experience the listing consultation and they see that you can sell their home for good money right now, and it's a great time to list, you're going to whet their appetite. They're sitting across from you doing the thing they weren't doing before you knocked on their door, which is actually considering selling their home. You see, most people would consider selling their home if they had this information. The problem is they don't consider it until they need to sell. And most real estate agents make the huge mistake of trying to only work with people who are ready to sell in the next 30 days. Look at every billboard and ad that's out there. If you're ready to buy or sell in the next 30 days, give me a call. Guys, that's less than 0.5% of the population that you're marketing to. But most everybody is willing to sell in the next 5 years. Why aren't we marketing to them? Here's the beauty of it. When you bring those people an offer that's very palatable and they'll accept, and you sit down and they actually begin considering selling their home now, a lot of them sell it. A lot of them list. Oh, they were 3 years out a minute ago. But now that they've actually sat down and considered this deeply, they go, what are we waiting for? Let's go see what else we can get out there now that we're going to make a few dollars on our house. So you're likely to get their listing in 1 to 3 years, which is great. You're also very likely to get their listing now. You're likely to get referrals if you know how to ask for those. Now that they've experienced your process and they've really come to know you, you can actually have them, you can give them a little email template where they can send out to all their friends and family this same offer. And it's going to sound like something great because they've experienced it. They can call their mom and say, hey, Ma, I just had this listing agent come by, this real estate agent came by, give me an amazing presentation on my home. I really think you should do this. They said I could offer it to any friends and family. And next thing you know, you're getting referrals from people straight into the listing consultation, all because you knocked on doors and offered some help from the open house you were doing up the road, or from the buyer that was interested, or from your local listing. Guys, it's gravy if you follow this process. And my clients that have done it no one has told me it doesn't work, that they followed it like this. All right. I've had a few try to cut corners, but this really works. So let's talk about objections and let's kind of land the plane here. Okay. What if they're not interested? Then you move on. After offering it like that, if they're not interested, you could say, just curious, what is it that doesn't appeal to you? And let them tell you, I'm just not interested. You move on. There's no pressure here. What if they say, I already have an agent? Well, first of all, you need to not make the mistake of saying, are you already working with an agent? It's a door knock. You ask that at the listing consultation. If they have an agent, then you get out of there. Okay. But most of them don't have an agent. They weren't expecting you to stop by. So if they say they've already got an agent, you get out of there. What if I help them and they never use me? That is actually a piss poor objection, because if you use them and if they use you and they abuse you, they're still referral partners. And you know what? I would rather have 10 appointments where I practiced my listing appointments and with the hopes that I would get some closed business in the future, than just say, if I don't get business now, it doesn't work. Listen, I still have people calling me from calls and appointments I ran years ago in my business. People remember you. And if you stay in front of them and you know how to do a little bit of drip marketing, a call every once in a while, an email, it's really, you should never think if they don't close today, they're never going to close. But I'll tell you this, having consultations is much more likely for them to call you in the future than simply sending mail. What if they're not ready to sell now? Doesn't matter. The value is still applicable now. The other thing you can offer them, which I declined to say earlier, the other thing you can offer them is a list of contractors. Hey, if you ever need to do anything around here, like a roof, or you need a new pest control guy, a new yard guy, whatever, I have a thoroughly vetted list of contractors. I'm happy to share it with you. That's another way to help. So Chelsea says, many people already have agents they know and trust. So in that case, should we still give them our card? So first of all, Chelsea, what we don't want to do is we don't want to ask them the question, hi, my name's Tom with ABC Realty. Are you already working with an agent? Because what we're doing then is we're giving them a softball pitch to the blow off that we really have to respect. Instead, the way to handle it is get to know them, have a conversation. You're not violating any ethics rules when you just get to know them. Offer to help them with the free consultation. If and when they take you up on the consultation, you can say, just want to make sure you're not presently actively working with another agent. Hear me on this. I want to make sure you're not presently actively working with another agent. Because just because they know an agent, that's not a violation of ethics if you work with them. But if they're actively working with another agent and you keep pressing, that's an issue. So we're not going to ask them if they know another agent. We're going to make it very, very clear in our question. Again, not until I have the listing appointment. When I have the consultation appointment, now I'm going to say, hey, just want to make sure before I meet you there, are you presently actively working with any other agent? No, I mean, I know one, but you're not actively working with them. You haven't engaged with them recently? No. You're good to go. If they know an agent that they talked to a year ago and those people try to come after you for this, you're not gonna have anything to worry about. So, but you have to ask it that way. If you were to just knock on their door and say, hey, I'd love to give you a consultation, just curious, do you know any other agents? You're not going to get very far. All right, a couple of tips. Take a flyer explaining the offer. That offer was kind of wordy. There's a lot of bullet point value points to that offer. It's really nice from a neuromarketing standpoint if you can actually hand them the offer and they can actually look at it, because then they feel like they're actually receiving something tangible. It's also easier for them to refer you. So give them a flyer explaining the offer. Take business cards, of course. And then when you finally do sit down with them, bring them a gift of some sort. And then, of course, DDT. Get the day, date, and time to keep following up. So when you have the appointment, you get a day, date, and time to follow up with them again and again and again until they say no or yes. That's how you do it. You always ask for a DDT. You never, a day, date, and time. You never say, I'll call you next week and interrupt you again. Once you've set your first appointment, this is a rule of mine. Once I get my first appointment, at the end of every appointment, I set another appointment, even if it's just a 5-minute follow-up call. I'm constantly setting appointments with people that are green, on my green list, on my prospect list. I never want to have to cold call them again. And that's one of the biggest keys. I go over that in a lot of my other trainings as well. Okay, we're going to start to land the plane here now. So a couple of tips. Do this before and after every open house. I've already said that. Do this when you have a listing. Do this when a buyer likes a neighborhood. Do this when you have nothing else to do. I've already covered those. What I'd like to do now, okay, we're started at 1:30. We're just a little over an hour in with our break, only an hour in. It's probably about all you can handle of me lecturing. I know there's only a few of you here today, but I'd love to hear any questions you have about real estate whatsoever and give you a little free coaching. I mean, we've got 45 minutes left. If you guys want some free coaching, I'm here to help out. For those of you who want to skedaddle, let me give you something for a little bit of an offer here that might help you. At the beginning of the call, I talked about predictable success, how you have to know what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, and have that in a trackable way. That's what I do for the first 3 months I coach somebody, is I really build that program out for them. Really probably 30 to 90 days. That's what I spend most of my time with people I coach building out. And then usually after that, I'm just acting as their sales manager for accountability. For me, that's pretty simple. But for a lot of people, because I've just done it for so long, but for a lot of agents, it takes a little while for them to kind of understand that. To do that just as if I was coaching you. I mean, it's like, here's a 12-minute video. Now go and do these steps. Here's another 12-minute video. Go and do these steps. What I call an exactly how to training. And it's linear, one step at a time, and you build that predictable success plan. I've got an online training that walks you through that. And if you might be interested in it, I am going to put an offer there. You can get it for 50% off if you do it in the next 24 hours. I know it's a little salesy, but I normally don't discount it that much. So just this, if you go to my site, strongholdtraining.com, it's there, but the coupon code is half off, all one word, all caps. If you click on learn more there, it'll pop up another window so you can have that open for when we're off the webinar here. But if you click learn more, again, it'll pop in a separate window so you can come back to it. But the coupon code, if you are interested, is half off, all caps, all one word, and I'll give you 50% off that program if you're interested. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into the chat, and I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to think up any questions you have at all. How to grow your business during COVID-19. What are you guys doing right now? I'd love to just hear from some of you as to how many listings you've gotten in the last couple of weeks. Are people answering phones? Are you guys hibernating? Maybe tell me how you're doing. But if there's anywhere I can help you do better right now, we've got plenty of time. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. If you have any questions in the chat, I'll shut up and let you do that. All right, if you guys don't have any questions, it's fine. I'll give you a couple more minutes here. Let me leave you with a couple of parting thoughts. So first of all, you'll get a replay of this training. You should get an email right after with a link to the replay. You can download the slides. You have your scripts. Here's what I really want to encourage you all to do. I have a couple of clients that have just gone hibernating during this time. A lot of other people are really, really making the best of this time and calling like crazy. And those clients of mine that are calling people like crazy right now are doing tremendously well, tremendously well. And what are they doing? They're just calling people and connecting with them and making this offer. They're doing it to FSBOs. They're doing it to expires. They're doing it to past connections, people in networking, strategic partners. And I mean, out of 10 calls, they're typically having 6 to 8 conversations. The reason it's working so well for them isn't because they're just calling 50 people a day. It's working well because they're calling those same 50 people every week. They're consistently calling them back. And it's usually about that second or third call that they get these listing appointments. I've got one fairly green client that has booked, I don't even know how many. He's probably up to like 8 or 9 listing appointments in just the last couple of weeks with FSBOs, just doing this right now. If you think right now is not a time to be getting business, I'll tell you what these people are saying. No one else is calling me. They're saying no one else is calling me consistently. And, you know, they're saying they're getting less calls. So I'm just going to encourage you guys, if you think right now you can't grow your business, I mean, in my experience, people I'm working with, that's just not the case. The ones that aren't growing the business are the ones who aren't working to grow their business, or they're trying to do it all on Facebook. I'm talking about picking up the phone and calling people is really effective. So a couple of questions in here. All right, Karen asks, so if you get intel, I love that way of approaching it, Karen. If you get intel that someone is going to list their home and you don't know them and you knocked and no one answered, besides knocking again, what is a good approach? Well, unfortunately, the best approach from the intel like that is really to work through wherever you got the intel. I like to work through influencers, somebody who knows them, if at all possible. I would want them to be more consistent. You know, I call that the big brother sale. You know, a little bird told me. Sometimes that can be kind of awkward. Hey, I heard through the grapevine you might be listing. You know, you've already knocked. What might be another approach? Again, you know, I really think that you need to work through wherever you got the intel, if at all possible. Other than that, it is to just knock again. You know, I've got this going on. You know, doing sales trainers, okay? And I've emailed, I've called, and I'm getting blown off. But I know the inside person who's told me they're actively looking. And so what I have done is I've asked that inside person to go to the key people that I've determined are the decision makers and to give them a free offer that I'm happy to come in and train for free. Here's my thought, Karen. I would actually, they don't want to be a nosy neighbor. I would actually send them a mailer. I would write a letter and offer a free consultation in the letter. Hey, a lot of people are considering listing in your neighborhood right now. Didn't know if you were or not, but it's a neighborhood that I'm highly familiar with. Would be happy to give you a free pricing estimate on your home. If you would just send me an email, I'll be sure to send that right over. And that's what I would do. I would send them a letter like that. I wouldn't say, I heard you were looking at listing. I would just send them a letter. It could be typed. It could be handwritten. You know, hey, a lot of people in your neighborhood are thinking about listing right now. It's a great time to do it. Pricing is good. If you would like a free pricing consultation, I would be happy to do that for you. Just send me an email requesting it and I will send it right over. And that's how I would make that connection. All right. Barbara says, do you have clients that door knock on really expensive homes and hoods, she said. So that's a topic of conversation that happens every time we talk about door knocking. And really what I have found is that the neighborhood doesn't so much matter as much as your mindset matters. And so what I mean by that is some people don't feel comfortable marketing in really expensive neighborhoods or in a little less expensive neighborhoods. But that's really all in your head. You need to feel comfortable. But here's the thing, the pitch is the same. The pitch is the same, right? So actually, let me tell you what the biggest difference actually is for my clients that have done this. The biggest difference between the really expensive neighborhoods are actually a lot of times you have their second homes for people, especially if you're doing like in the beach and stuff like that, and they're larger lots. So you just get less door knocks in. A lot of times there's gates. It's harder to get in. You just get less door knocks in. You walk a lot more miles, and there's less likely a chance that they answer the door. So that's actually one of the issues with the more expensive neighborhoods, to be honest. It's not anything else. I have found personally that you just want to look at what your farm club is, right? So if your farm club is neighborhoods that are somewhere between 250 and 450,000, door knocks work great there. More family type neighborhoods, a little bit more transient, where people are going to be living in their home for about 5 to 7 years. Door knocks work really good, especially with this offer. So we're looking at, like, I live in Pasco County. I'm in the Oakstead area. So like that State Road 54 corridor, all these neighborhoods would be fantastic for that. You can knock on 20 doors in an hour easy and have conversations with everybody. So I would say that $250,000 to $450,000 range is pretty good. They don't get a ton of soliciting, believe it or not. Not like this. I hate to use the word soliciting, and no one's asked yet. I'm surprised. What if there's like no soliciting signs on the neighborhood, stuff like that? That's up to you. All right. No soliciting signs usually mean don't come here. We're going to buy something. A lot of people respect that. They don't want to get run out of the neighborhood. Out of 100 doors, there's always one person that'll call the HOA, take a picture of you and complain and put you on next door or something like that. That horror nightmare thing is why we don't do this stuff. It's like 1 in 100 neighbors will do that. So if you're really worried about that, and that keeps a lot of people away, by the way, so it's actually good for you if you are door knocking, it keeps your competitors away. But if you're really worried about the no soliciting policy of neighborhoods, let me help you with that. Sticky strategy, right? You're not soliciting when you just showed the house next door, or you have an upcoming open house, or you have an interested buyer. And I mean, you're soliciting technically, but when you stop by the neighbor's house and say, hey, I had someone that was just interested in this house. I was just here and I was just curious if you would be interested because they didn't want that house. And that type of conversation is a legit reason to stop by. Could it technically be qualified as solicitation? Yes, but it's different than what the no soliciting is there for. The no soliciting is there for people who are canvassing neighborhoods, hitting every single door in a neighborhood to try to sell something right now, or to try to change someone's religion or something like that. That's primarily what is neighborly. I mean, am I soliciting if I walk over to my neighbor's house and I ask them if they'd like to buy something from me? Again, I really want to be fair here. I don't want to try to twist something or make you in any way try to fabricate or exaggerate something. But honestly, I would say that I wouldn't worry about the no soliciting. And if you do, then do it with the open houses only. If you're really worried about it, if you have an open house and you're letting people up and down the street know there's an open house coming up, that is not soliciting. And if while you're having that conversation, you just happen to offer them some free help to come by and talk to them more later about the value of their home, at that point, you're already having a conversation. That's really not soliciting. So soliciting would be just going to every single door trying to sell something, okay, which you're not really doing here. So, all right, let me get to these other questions. All right, Chelsea's going back into her question here. Let's see. I currently have a client wanting me as their agent to list their home because of COVID-19, was not sure if it would be a good time to still list their home, considering many people are out of work that were looking to buy but can't now. Yep, still a good time to list their home. I have not seen that being an issue. I've got a couple of agents that I work with that have had a few people postpone listing their home. All that does is shrink inventory. Less inventory means higher prices. Less inventory means more likely people are going to find you. There are active buyers out there right now. Closings are still happening. The title companies are still busy enough. So I would say list it now for sure. See what you get. You can always list for 2 or 3 weeks and take it back off the market. I know people don't like to do that, but you can always list and then come back to it. If it's priced right, and here's what I would say. If the home is not priced right, if the home needs a lot of work, if the home needs some TLC, then you have an excuse to get them to do that with the promise to list in the summer. But if the home is ready to go, list it. I don't think it's going to be any harder to sell. Karen said, I did a porch drop-off of info, so I'll try getting their email. Very, very important. That's good. The porch drop-offs, very rarely, they've got everything now. There's no reason for them to talk to you again. You really want to give them that bigger listing presentation. Although if all you can do is the porch drop-off, then you can do it. But I would say never do it. All right. Some of you said thanks. A couple of you have to run. I understand. Let me make sure I got to all your questions. Let me finish answering Barbara's question. So I had mentioned about knocking on really expensive houses. What about not so expensive houses? What about like low income areas, things like that? Again, it really just comes back to what your farm club is. If your farm club, if your farm area is that area and you have an open house there, and then go ahead and do it. The reason I say that is because this works. So if you knock on doors, you're likely to get people interested. So if they're not in the area you're looking to market, then don't do it. And let me just kind of end on a little bit on that note, unless you have any other questions. Let me kind of end on that note, which is, again, back to predictable success. The thing with being successful in real estate really has a lot to do with consistently marketing and tracking and tweaking what you're doing. So if you pick one of the most successful agents I've worked with, door knocking, did it in a townhome community. The townhomes in there were only priced at about $150,000. Some of them were as low as $125,000. They were 2 bedrooms above garage, and then they had 3 bedrooms, kind of that D.R. Horton kind of typical townhome scenario, houses, buildings with three to 4 apartments within them. And they would knock on those. They were listed $125,000 to $150,000 at the time, and they were they would get a listing. They would knock on about 200, 250 doors over the course of a couple of weeks. The whole community, meet people, get a listing, okay, and then keep knocking on doors, because they'll say, I just sold that home, or I've got it under contract at 140. Hey, I think now that the market's heating up here, I could list yours for 145, or I could list yours for 150. Let's go ahead and list. They also knew all the reasons people would want to move out of the neighborhood. Hey, the HOA here isn't getting any better, whatever. They would have those conversations, and they just kept knocking on doors, and they kind of skipped stones, leapfrogged, if you will. And in this one neighborhood, once they landed their first listing and they knew everybody, because they knocked on every door every time they got a listing, they ended up doing 5 or 6 listings in that neighborhood in the course of a year. They became the household name because they just kept knocking on doors saying, hey, got another listing. And they didn't have any issues with that. I think most people thought they lived there because they just knocked on the doors so much. And they just canvassed that one little neighborhood and pretty much rocked it. That's an example of what I suggest doing. So it's not a one-time knock and go type thing. Ideally, this works best if it's your farm area. You've got buyers you're showing in that area. You've got listings in that area. You're looking for open houses in that area. So you keep knocking doors, because when you get more open houses, more listings in that area, you're going to keep getting that area locked in. Consistently selling to an area of expertise has always been better than wide cast nets of inconsistent selling. So I hope that is helpful for you. Guys, again, use it at least as sticky strategy. I know you'll be glad you did. If I can help you in any way, I'm happy to do it. So if you guys are members of Pro, you can look at the Pro Coach program. You can just email me. It's Thom with an H, THOM at strongholdtraining.com. My online training, again, that's much cheaper than anywhere to do it. Here's what I suggest you do. Do a science experiment. Go knock 10, just 10 doors. Knock 10 doors when you're ready, right? When you got an open house, whatever, when it's nice and easy, go knock 10 doors. See what happens. If at the end of 10 doors, you are 100% convinced you never want to do this again, you never have to. At the end of 10 doors, you probably will want to, though. My email, Barbara, is thom@strongholdtraining.com. You can just go to strongholdtraining.com and you can book an appointment with me there as well. You can book a 15-minute call with me right at strongholdtraining.com. You can book a coaching session with me if you want to. So, oh no, I froze on screen. Probably my children are now streaming movies and my internet connection is crashing. I will type my email in the chat. All right, and I also linked to my website there, and actually book an appointment would be strongholdtraining.com/schedule. She's saying I'm still frozen. I don't know if it's me or if it's you. Hopefully I'm not frozen with a really awkward look on my face, Barbara. Great. Karen said that. I'm sorry. So apparently I'm frozen for a few of you, so I will end this now. Really appreciate you guys, and thank you so much. Hope this was helpful. I will see you on the next webinar.